Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Anna Rafel. I'm your host of At This Stage, presented by Camp Broadway. With our friends at Streamable Learning, I am live in my apartment in New York City, connecting you with Broadway professionals, both on and off the stage. To you, our families, our students, and our friends. I'm so happy to have you here with us today. We'll be here for the next 35 minutes or so, and start thinking of those questions you have. You can put them in the Q&A function, and I promise I will try to get to as many of them as possible. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest for today, Miss Cindy Thole. Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Anna.
I'm going to give a quick bio of Miss Cindy. Otherwise, if I did a long one, I would be here for too long. So Cindy Thole is a professional director, choreographer, and educator. Some of Cindy's Broadway performance credits include Me and My Girl, Singin' in the Rain, 42nd Street, My Fair Lady, Nick and Nora, and Meet Me in St. Louis. Cindy's dynamic career has led her to work with some of theater's legends, which we'll talk about today: Agnes DeMille, Twyla Tharp, Susan Stroman, Leonard Berstein, just to name a few. Cindy shares what she's learned from her years in the industry and provides a valuable advice for aspiring artists and students. Welcome, Cindy. Thank you for joining us today.
I'm happy to be here.
Where are you? How are you feeling?
I'm in Manhattan. I'm in Tribeca, which is in the southern part of Manhattan. My home is pretty close to where the World Trade Centers were, and we're all inside.
Just hunkering down.
Hunkering down, yeah.
I love that. All right, before we get to the exciting things you're doing now, let's go back to the beginning. What are your earliest memories of theater? How was it introduced to you as a child? How did you get started?
Well, actually, my earliest memories are dancing in my living room. My mom is a wonderful pianist, and she would play piano, and I would twirl around. And then my sister, who's 1 year older than I am, got to go to kindergarten. And I was bereft because there was nothing for me to do. And I don't know if all that twirling around led my mother to think, maybe we should try dancing school, but they let me try. And I'll never forget it. I remember the very first day. I was 4 years old. I had a half an hour of ballet and a half an hour of tap, and it changed my life. I still remember actually the dances that I did when I was 4. In that ballet class. The only thing I remember about the tap class was that the lady wore fishnet hose and her legs shook when she shuffled. But that was my beginning of dance, and from there forward, I was pretty dedicated to just wanting to learn and expose myself. And then, of course, I saw Mary Martin do Peter Pan on television, I think when I was about 4 as well. And I think that did something to me. When I made my commitment to the profession, I was 10, and I remember it vividly. I know that sounds strange, but it's
no, I love that. At 10, you were committed.
I went to a community ballet performance where they did a production of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Okay.
And I sat in the audience and said, I want to do that. And after the performance, they allowed us to come on stage and get very close to the dancers and shake their hands. Can you imagine? And
not anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. And at the end of that day, I don't think I told anyone, but I knew that was it.
Yeah. Did you study all different forms as you were growing up, all different styles of dancing, or did you stick to ballet and tap?
You know, my tap education was actually not really rich until later in my career, later in my studies. I I focused mostly on ballet. And the thing was, is that it was about storytelling always for me from the very beginning. And it was being able to tell a story without any words. And it just, I understood it all. I felt like I could be very articulate with my movement. So it was mostly ballet, but of course we had character dance and Spanish dance and point dance and, you know, lots of varieties, but all ballet, yeah.
And then when you graduated high school, did you go to college to study dance?
I did. And the thing was, in high school, I was attracted to being in the musicals, but my dedication and commitment to the ballet school was such that I really didn't have time to be in the musicals. But
how many days were you practicing?
At least 5 days a week, I would say. Because sometimes we would do Saturday and Sunday, but I think the classes were only 3 days a week. Yeah, so about 5 days a week. I found myself a summer theater where I could do musicals. And that sort of started my relationship with musical theater. And when it was time to go to college, well, actually, I have my first book that I would like to present. It is, I was 15 years old and reading Agnes DeMille's To a Young Dancer. And I probably was 9th or 10th grade. I was not a real reader, but I read everything she wrote. I could hear her voice. It made so much sense to me. And I went to my mother and I said, you know, Agnes DeMille says you have to be in New York City by 15 if you want to be a professional dancer. It says it right in the book. And my mother, we were having, she was fixing fried chicken, I remember it. And she said, could you set the table? No, you're not going to New York City. And I was just like, kind of relieved, maybe a little, like I didn't have to go to New York, but I wanted to go, or I felt like I wanted to be a professional dancer. So to my parents' credit, who knew very little about dance, they said to me, you may major in dance in college if that's something that you want to do, but you need to go to college. So I found the best school for me, which at the time was Butler University in Indianapolis, Indiana. It remains one of the strongest ballet schools in the country. So I went there specifically to become a ballet dancer. And I loved every minute of it. It was incredibly important in my training. From there, I did get into a small ballet company out in Texas. And at this point, I have yet to visit New York City. I have never seen a Broadway show. As a matter of fact, the first musical I ever saw, I was a senior in high school, and it was at the Kennedy Center. I lived in Maryland. And we went to the Kennedy Center, and I sat in the very back row of the mezzanine and saw Pearl Bailey perform Hello, Dolly. And it was like I was in the front row. It was so exciting, everything about it. So anyway, yeah, I knew what I wanted to do in college. I found the right college for me. I worked like a dog. And during the summers, I again did musical theater.
Did you, and then let's make the jump. So then when did you make the jump to performing in musicals, or did you continue with the ballet company for a while?
You know, after college, I had gone to Chicago just for some auditions and got a contract for a company, a ballet company in San Antonio, Texas. It does not exist anymore, but at that time it was there. And I accepted the job. And so for the summer, to keep myself in shape, I went to the Houston Ballet and studied there. and had a phenomenal experience. And at the end of my time, they said to me, this is one of those moments, I want to bring it up because it's a moment that changed my life. So they came to me and said, you know, you're a little too tall for any of the boys, so we can't have you in the apprentice company because you don't have a partner. But if you'd like to stay, we would like to have you for the big ballets, and you can be, you know, a fairy on the left and a snowflake on the right. And I said, you know, oh, that sounds so wonderful, but I have this contract down in San Antonio, so I should honor that. Actually, what I said to them was, what do you think of that company? Because you have to understand, this is before there's the internet.
Right.
So if you know, to do research on a job like that was a little bit challenging. Now here they are in the same state as that ballet company, and instead of them saying, you know, oh, that's wonderful, go, have a good time, they didn't say anything. They were like, oh. So anyway, I went, and it was not a great fit for me. And I ended up only staying there about 6 months. And then I basically went home, regrouped, bought a one-way ticket to New York City, and had no idea what I was up to. I said, I'm either going to do ballet or I'm going to do musicals. I don't know which. I'm just going to audition for everything and see what happens. And
do you remember those first auditions? Did you go in, and when you went in, because it's a little different, right? Broadway had made the change from the separate singing and dancing choruses to really people doing both for the most part. So when you went in, did you go in specifically as a dancer and then had to sing later, or what was that experience like for you?
Yes, I mean, for the most part, even though the ensembles were becoming more integrated, you know, what you said, but you still auditioned towards your strength. So I always went to the dancers who sing call. And, you know, I had never been to New York, and I thought everyone that would be in New York would be brilliant and phenomenal and unstoppable. And I got here and I was like, wow, her training isn't so, I mean, I wasn't being catty about it. I was just looking around, and I thought, well, you know, my training is better than that training, and my training's better than that training. And before I knew it, I gained confidence, and I got a job right away. So
what was the first job?
My first job was the national tour of Sugar Babies with Carol Channing and Robert Morse. So here I went from doing the Nutcracker in point shoes to now I'm going to be, I use the word burlesque, which probably not everybody even knows what it means anymore, but this was a musical about a time in American theater history where burlesque was considered somewhere between vaudeville and the variety shows. Variety shows were the much more risque form of entertainment, and vaudeville was a lot more family entertainment. So I was wearing high heels and tap shoes, and it was great fun.
Very, very different than those point shoes.
Yes, indeed, very, very different.
And I named a bunch of all your other credits on Broadway. We have a question of, do you have a favorite from all of those, and maybe a favorite cast member from those experiences? I know it's hard to pick one, so you can give us a couple if you got.
You know, I get that question a lot, and it's really interesting because I was so so strongly influenced by Agnes DeMille's ideas. I always say Oklahoma was my favorite, and even as a director, when I've directed the show, which I've loved being able to do. There's something in the show that's so heartwarming and family making that it's always a really good time. However, it's really hard to say, but when I was in Me and My Girl, there was a phenomenal English actor called Robert Lindsay, who was the lead in that show. And I was in the original American cast. He had done it in London, but it was transferring to US, and to be in the original production with him, I think was probably a highlight.
What did you have to change about the way you prepared or took care of yourself when you did 8 shows a week, either in New York or on tour? I mean, we talked about this with a guest earlier in the week, that it is such a different beast when you're doing either, but what did you have to do for yourself?
It's interesting. I just said to some of my Zoom ballet students this morning that I said, you know, you have to really approach this time that we're out of the studio almost as if you're on tour. I said, there were times when I was on tour that we would get to the theater and it would be kind of a rush, and you'd have to give yourself bar or class before the show. And you would be doing it in the stairwell. I mean, literally in the cement stairwell, because there would be, you know, stagehands on the stage, and there'd be ushers in the aisles, and there just was nowhere to work. Because, you know, with the coronavirus, I'm teaching for my university every day on Zoom, and we have to stay in shape. So you have to do your own daily workout, your own daily class. It's a hard fact to learn in this business, but you're only as valuable as your body is, which means if you break your foot, you're really useless. If you're sick, you're useless. And how many people want to do this business? A lot. So if you can't keep your body together, they just move on to the next person. So.
Hard, it's true, absolutely. Do you, we have a question from Erica about the different shoes. I mean, how many at this point, how many different types of dance shoes do you think you've gone through in your career?
Oh my goodness. Lots and lots.
Do you have any that have stood out? Just of like, what is on my foot right now?
When I did Sugar Babies, it was that there were some extraordinary bubblegum pink handmade lace-up high-heeled boots. They weren't tap boots, they were just character boots. And they felt like butter, and they were made for each girl. And so those were extraordinary shoes to wear. I also have worn point shoes with sort of like, you know, the rubber that they put on a tap shoe or a character shoe? Well, that rubber goes around the tip of the point shoe if you're wearing point shoes on a Broadway stage, because a Broadway stage might have hinges in it, or like mechanical wenches that go across, so there might be a gap. So you're not dancing on a very lovely floor. You're dancing dangerous. So here you are in your point shoes, but you're basically dancing on tires. It's different.
That is different. Yeah, you have to get used to that. Going back to, so now, when did you make the switch from performing to teaching and directing and choreographing? Or how did that opportunity present itself?
You know, it's funny. I said that it was all about storytelling always for me. Even as a young child, I put on a million carport performances and got everybody in the neighborhood in there.
Mm-hmm.
Every show I ever did, I would come home. Well, when I was young, I would come back to our house and I would practice everybody's part because I was so tuned in at rehearsals that I just learned everybody's part. So that was kind of the beginning of me being able to be a dance captain or a swing. And through that really heightened awareness of how the whole thing gets put together, I developed the mechanical ability to direct a show, which means you start it, you got to tell the story, and then you end it. The growth for me as a director comes when I have a property or a piece of theater that speaks so strongly to me that I want to put some kind of, I just want to tell it in the best way I can tell it, and I think I know how it should be done. Mm-hmm. Which is very different than like when I did 42nd Street, and I've gone off to restage that like 3 or 4 times. And I direct it by helping the actors know how to feel in this moment and what to think and what they want and why they're there. But those moments were really educational because that was done by Coward Champion, this amazing, amazing artist. Anyway, I began directing and choreographing when I got a phone call from somebody who said, hey, would you come down to Roanoke, Virginia and choreograph me and my girl? We've heard from so-and-so that you were in the original production in New York. And I said, oh, that sounds interesting. And it was always my dream to have the phone ring and have someone offer me a job. That was one of my dreams, really was.
I like it.
So I said, I better follow this one because this seems cool. And that really opened, I got such a rush out of being on the other side of the table. So, yeah.
Do you, and when you, we had a question, I had a question earlier on from, I'm gonna get this. Oh, from an anonymous friend, but when you choreograph, where do you begin? Is it hard to think of choreography? Do you, especially when you've done the show before, do you go look at what you've done before, or do you try to just start new?
You can't erase anything that's in your mind. That doesn't mean that you steal it, but especially dancers. If I've danced Agnes DeMille's choreography, then it's in my muscle memory somewhere.
Sure.
So I actually believe that we are all of a piece. We're all of everything we've ever seen, everything we've ever read, everything we've ever danced, everything we've ever done. But when I do it in 2020 with a group of people, it will be unique. And unless I'm being paid to restage it, then contractually, I should not restage it, right? I should dig deep and find my own new idea of what it means to be a farmer and a cowman. And I can do that. And I think it's very rewarding, actually, to take a piece and rework it.
We have a lot of aspiring actors and actresses watching today. So you mentioned you enjoyed being on the other side of the table, and you've gotten to be on the other side of the table in an audition on a professional level, for college auditions, even with Camp Broadway, you watch video submissions. What is your best advice for all those aspiring actors and actresses to get your attention?
It's a hard one, but it's called confidence. I mean, it's hard for the young actor to stand in front of a camera or a director and be confident. But I don't mean confident like, you know, I'm the next best thing to anything. I mean that you know yourself, you know that you've done your training, you trust your instrument and your talents, and you walk in the room and you give your passion, give your energy, and that really sticks out. That really shows. Trying to go into an audition room and be what they want never works. Because the whole reason they're having an audition usually is they aren't really sure what they want. They want you to bring in something, and then they think, oh yes, or wonderful talent, but not for this show.
Right. Oh, I just lost. Okay, let me get you. So I got some more questions here. When you're oh my gosh. So we have a question here from, Lynn. Sorry, I love to dance so much. So she's a choreographer now. So my question is, I'm often one of the slowest in the group to learn group choreography, which is not optimal for casting calls and auditions. Do you have recommendations for how to audition or how to help the audition when I'm a slow and steady learner?
You know, I always tell people, just learn the feet. Just learn the counts, and then throw some arms in. If you can't do exactly what they gave at the audition, have the feet, have the counts, and have a lot of personality. You might be what they're looking for anyway. The only way to get over not being able to pick up choreography is to take a lot of class. And don't take a class where you do the same warm-up every time you show up, because that doesn't work. That muscle memory, that muscle in your dance or instrument that has to pick up choreography.
All right, we have a question from Jessica. I have directed a play before. How do you pick a piece or write a script and represent it in the way you have in your mind? Do you get, because you're now at Fairleigh Dickinson, do you get, at the college you teach, do you get to pick the shows that you do for the season?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes we do. And I read the play and I listen to the music if it's a musical. And then I read the play and I listen to the music. And I have to do it without any preconceived notion of, I'm going to make this the best play that's ever been done. I'm going to make it so amazing. No, I'm going to read the play and find out what the story is, listen to the music, see what inspires me. And then I get together with the people that I trust, that I like, who are designers, and I say, read the play, listen to the music. Now we're going to get together, and I love this part. And we're going to talk about, what is this play about? What do we want to say? How do we see it? Where should we set it? You know, because a lot of times you read a play and it's not set in Oklahoma in 1896. Yeah. Or 1902.
That one is specific.
Yeah.
That one's in Oklahoma. Do you, what has been the most exciting show you've done in the past couple of years? Is there anything that really you were just so excited to direct and get your hands on?
Anything Sondheim is pretty much the answer. As a director, I'm like thrilled whenever the challenge is to take a Sondheim piece and mount it on my college students, which first of all, it's such complex, complex thoughts, issues, subtext, inner life. The inner life of the characters is so, it's full of range. And so there's so much to play with and work with there. Mm-hmm. Just to go back to the director question, who wanted to know, how do you make the piece that you want to make? And I just kept saying, read the script, listen to the music, read the script, but you have to visualize. You literally, you don't have to have all the answers when you start rehearsal, because you won't, you can't. But you should have, when you start rehearsal, a really strong outline of what you think you want it to look like. And then it's really your job as the director to get the support you need, and then also to lead. You have to lead, you have to make adjustments, and it's a funny thing. It's all your fault if it's not good. and, and if it goes great, you have to spread all the thanks across the entire board.
That's a good piece of advice to take. I like that one. We have a couple of questions from some aspiring directors, Abigail and Tara. They were also asking about how, you know, as an actor and actress, often, you know, you can take classes and you can study, and a dancer and you take classes. How, if you are someone who is an aspiring director, how would you do that in high school? Do you have any advice for that? Or even college, I mean, how to study that?
You know, the university setting is a fantastic arena for actors. I mean, for directors, because you have those actors to work with. Graduate school for directors, I would say absolutely. Undergraduate programs in directing are harder to come by. And I think, I'll tell you why. It's because usually when kids are leaving high school, they all want to be the star. And I don't want that to sound as flip as it does, but their first exposure with the love of theater comes from being on the stage. And it isn't until they really start to study what is it about theater that really speaks to them that they might think of directing. And storytelling. Sure. It's all storytelling. Yeah. Right.
Did you ever, I mean, you were saying you directed even your neighborhood kids in your own shows. So I think there's always, especially now when everyone is at home, like gather a group of friends and put together your own show or do a reading. And I think there are ways of finding those creative outlets even now.
Absolutely.
All right, we have a question from Jane. What is the hardest musical you were ever in? Do you have a show that stands out as for one reason or another?
Every show I ever did had one number in it. That was the hardest number ever. You know, when you have to close a show, you feel like I'm losing a piece of myself. I gave so much to that and I loved every minute of that. But there's always that one number that was so hard, like in 42nd Street, and we had to carry these dimes around on the stage and, you know, count to 32 and then throw it on the ground and then jump up and dance over and over again. And I remember when I was leaving the show, I was in the wings and I said to myself, this is the last time I have to do the dime dance. It's always about a prop. You know, when I did Christmas Carol at Madison Square Garden.
Oh yes, you brought us some pictures, yeah.
I want to show you this because this is the hardest thing probably I ever did. I had to swing 36 women, which means I had to know what all 36 of them were doing. And we came on stage in this sleigh of giant fruits. So we were a cornucopia of delights. You see this? Can you see this sleigh?
Yes.
Okay, so imagine having to then dance in those costumes, right? In tap shoes, in dry ice. And if you're the swing, which was me, it means you've never done it until you're on. So you've sat there through rehearsal, you've practiced in the back, but nobody has time to let you rehearse with that thing on your body. And your vision is limited and the floor is slippery. And I won't go into it, but that was the most challenging thing I've ever done.
Did you have a favorite fruit costume you got to wear in that? Those grapes looked... Yeah,
the grapes were quite fun, actually.
I think you have some other pictures you were going to show us.
I do. I have some silly stuff. You know, I wanted to go all the way back. anybody out there who loves ballet, here's like, these are Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo costumes from Butler University. And I started as a little, you know, soldier ballerina. And then I moved to New York and became a Luigi jazz dancer because I had to take off the pink tights and I had to fit in. I had to dress the part. And then I got to be a lovely sugar baby, which was very different. And then my dream show, which was Oklahoma. Has anyone done Oklahoma? So I'm right here, I think, by my finger. But, you know, when you worked with Agnes on a number like this, you really understood what the show was about. She was so specific. Now, 42nd Street has been revived. This is the other thing that makes me laugh in my career because I was on Broadway hanging around long enough that shows were getting revived that I had already done. So I would have to like update my resume and say like, you know, 42nd Street, the original instead of the revival, or Oklahoma, the last one. Agnes one. Look at the shape and the formation of this. This is Gower Champion's Lullaby of Broadway. So when you ask me, like, when you have to reset something that you've already done, right? Something like that is so iconic that you kind of have to borrow it, I think, even though we try not to.
Borrow it.
You just have to borrow it just a little bit. You know, Balanchine actually said, there are no new steps. So you see, it's just a new order and a new interpretation of the step. So he gave us permission to borrow from each other, I think.
I like that, borrow. All right, I have two more questions here before I let you go. AJ wanted to know, what was one of your biggest personal struggles as a human going through this career? Nice and light question here.
Well, you know, it was really fun to go through all my pictures last night and sort of say, wow, look at all this stuff I did, and this is really fun. And then you recognize that, you know, you don't have a lot of stuff in the scrapbook that says this was the time when it was really hard to get a job, or this was the time when I was really, really lonely because I focused so much on my career that maybe I didn't, you know, have an opportunity to do some other things. So yeah, there's like things you gave up. There are sacrifices that have to be made, I think, if you're going to focus and succeed. And the other one is probably injury. Whenever one gets really injured, and I've had only a couple, but I have had a couple of bad injuries, it's stressful. So you have to have grace. You have to recognize that nothing is fair, so you can't get upset that it's not fair. You have to say that if you're going to dance or be a performer, you will get injured, and you have to then heal so that you can carry on, and that's the truth.
Yes, absolutely. My last question is, as you know, Camp Broadway, our motto is develop your character. So what does character mean to you, Miss Cindy?
Trust. I mean, it could mean a lot of things, but for me, if I can meet somebody where they are and feel that we're in some kind of trusting relationship. Theater is a huge community of people. And so if your rehearsal starts at 10, I have to trust and know that you'll be there at 10. So is that your character? Yeah, it's in your character that you said you would be there and you're there. If I want you to take my emotional life and I put it in your hands, I don't want you running around stomping on it. You know, I want to trust. I want to be in collaboration with people that I trust, that that I think we share a value. So you have to be nice. You can't always say what you want to say. It's easy. People say too much now. But if you want people to trust you, sometimes you have to just think stuff and not say it. Because this business is so competitive that your character counts, because your first job, if your character isn't shiny and strong, somebody's going to say, oh, well, let's not do that one again. We'll do the next one. So does that?
Yes, that works. That works. That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you for spending a half an hour with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your stories. They are really, I could have asked a lot more questions. And thank you all for watching. Follow all of our Camp Broadway things on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. We also will be doing tomorrow. I've lost my ability to speak English. Join us tomorrow, same time, with Joshua Turchin, a fantastic 13-year-old Camp Broadway alum actor who I believe will be making hopefully still his Broadway debut in the fall. And we'll be talking to him tomorrow. Thank you, Miss Cindy. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.